Hello, my name is Brandon Sawyer, and today I will be presenting on a web page that features the cryosphere today. So first I just thought I would include the website URL here. If you just copy and paste that, then you'll be able to get right to the web page. So as far as for the objectives for today, first I'm going to begin by just giving a quick overview of the cryosphere and some of the features that will help you understand it better. And then I'll go into some definitions of important terms related to the web page that will actually help you understand the web page a little bit better as well. And then lastly, I will just explain some of the highlights of the web page and some of the things that you'll be able to do on there. So to begin, the cryosphere itself, which is the main topic of the web page, is basically just the frozen water part of the Earth system. So basically any ice in the oceans would be considered in the cryosphere. So for example, the Arctic and Antarctic regions. So next, I'll highlight the greenhouse effect, which is basically just the natural warming process of the Earth's surface. So basically the way the greenhouse effect works is the sun emits radiation that is then absorbed by the Earth. Some of that radiation is then emitted back to the atmosphere, where certain greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide then absorb some of that radiation, and then those greenhouse gases will then emit some of that radiation back down to the Earth's surface, thus warming the surface of the Earth. So the reason this is important is because in the last few decades we have seen an increase in the greenhouse effect, and therefore an increase in the warming of the Earth. And for that increase in the greenhouse effect is mostly attributed to human-related activities that cause an increase in CO2 and pollution. And so for all those reasons, we have seen a reduction in the amount of multi-year ice. So multi-year ice is basically ice that stays frozen throughout the course of an entire year, or obviously multi-years in this case. And so basically it's ice that won't melt in the summer months. So basically when we have this reduction in the amount of multi-year ice, we see a younger and a thinner ice cap. So some of the definitions you're going to need to know for some of the terms that you'll see on the webpage are listed here. So first we're going to begin with area. So area is pretty simple. It's basically just a given region covered by sea ice, usually given in square kilometers. Next we see concentration, which basically describes the relative amount of an area covered by ice compared to some reference value that we would know. And it's usually expressed as a percent. Then next we go into extent, which basically just defines the region as either ice covered or not ice covered. And then lastly, one of the most important ones that you'll see is anomaly. So an anomaly basically measures the difference between the sea ice value that you're looking at, so whether it would be area, extent, or concentration, at a given time, and then it takes that difference compared to the long-term average. So if you have positive values or positive anomalies, you're going to see greater than average values for whatever variable we're looking at, and vice versa for a negative anomaly. So basically when you first click on the URL, you're going to see this image here on the left first. This is basically the beginning of the web page, and as you scroll down further, you're going to see some of that stuff on the right, as well as some more as you head further down into the web page. To begin, first I'll start here with the archive of daily polar sea ice cap concentration. So basically you're going to find this here on the left side of the web page. And basically what this gives you is it gives you a time period of 1979 to present. And so you're going to see every single day from every single month from 1979 until present. And when you click on one of these days, you're going to see an image like this here on the right, basically just showing you what the polar ice cap looked like on that day. So next then we're going to look into sea ice animations, which basically is this but just looped into multiple images. So you can kind of see what the transformation would have been like over a course of days or months or years. And then they do list their contact information if you have any questions or comments, or would just like to maybe make some requests for some polar data that you might need. So next, you'll see this in two different spots on the web page. One spot is for the northern hemisphere, and then the other spot is for the southern hemisphere. So listed in this little area, you have 5 different graphs that you can click on, all giving kind of different values, different graphs. The ones I would like to highlight most are basically the northern hemispheric ice area and the northern hemispheric anomaly. And obviously this applies for the southern hemisphere as well, but right now we're concerned for the northern hemispheric ice area. So as you can see here, you do see a bit of this downward trend in both of these graphs here, as well as these negative anomalies here on this third graph into the right, where you're starting to see below average levels of sea ice area. So then as you scroll a bit farther down on the webpage, you're going to see both these images here. The first one on the left is for the northern hemisphere or the Arctic region, and basically it gives at different angles of viewing what the polar ice cap looks like both at a current time, and then you do have the option to make a 30-day animation or a 30-day loop. And so this right here is valid for February 26, 2018, and then on the right there as well for the southern hemisphere. So the next, there is an option to look at some forecasts for 1 week out for different variables like wind, temperature, and precipitation, among some others. And so basically, you can look at these different variables and their forecasts at different pressure levels, which is basically just different heights in the atmosphere where different pressures are occurring. So basically, you can go all the way up to 500 millibars, as well as surface level, and you can see how these variables might change in the next week or so. So next, and one that I think is quite important, is instead of showing you the encompassed view, basically the outer way bird's eye view of the polar Arctic ice region, here you can kind of select different subregions of the Arctic area. So they're kind of highlighted here in different colors, and you just click on one of these, and depending on, so for example, I clicked on the Arctic basin, and it'll give you a graph of both the solar ice cap, or polar ice cap area and anomaly, and you can kind of get an idea of what is going on at different regions in the Arctic region. So next, another one that's important, and this one basically is just it's the global sea ice area. So when it says global, that means it's including both the Arctic region and the Antarctic region. So you kind of get an idea of the entire ice content in the whole globe. Next, you'll see as you keep scrolling down on the web page, this is actually at the bottom left of the web page. You're going to see a headline that says older products. So this one is a very interesting and important part of the web page because it highlights the 2007 multi-year loss of ice. So in 2007, there was a drastic loss of ice as a result of some different things that you can kind of look at here. So first, you can see some side-by-side comparisons, comparing maybe 2006, 2007, and seeing kind of what the differences were like. And then you can also make some like animations or loops of the 2007 ice loss, so you can see just how drastic it was. And then lastly, they do have an archive map of different atmospheric and radiative conditions that led up to the 2007 ice loss. So you can maybe see how different global temperatures affected this ice loss and things like that. So lastly here, as you scroll down to the bottom right of the web page, you're going to see something that basically just gives users an alternative option to access the web page. And this is something that's very important in today's modern age where we all have iPhones and things like that. It gives you the option to look for an app and to go onto your iPhone here.